Good evening, everyone. I will call the Peace River Town Council regular meeting of Monday, August 25th to order at 5 p.m. So we have an agenda in front of us. Are there any additions or deletions?
Yes, your worship, thank you. I would like to delete under section 8, current business, item 3, refreshed land use bylaw discussion. And it will be put on the GMP agenda for a fulsome discussion next week.
Thank you. Okay, would someone like to move the adoption of the agenda with that amendment? Councillor Good.
I'll move the adoption of the agenda as amended.
Thank you. All those in favor? It is carried. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have the minutes of July 14th, the regular council meeting. We've had a chance to review those. Are there any edits that someone has found? If not, maybe someone could move us along with motion. Thank you.
Move that council adopt the minutes of the August 11th, 2025 special council meeting as presented.
The regular one first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Move that council adopt the minutes of the July 14th, 2025 regular council meeting as presented.
There we go. All those in favor? Okay, next up, we have the minutes of the August 11th special council meeting. We've had a chance to review those as well. Someone like to move us forward with those minutes? Councillor Ford?
I put a motion on the floor that council adopt the minutes of the August 11th, 2025 special council meeting as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor? It is carried. Thank you. We do not have any public hearings at this point, no delegation presentations, no bylaw readings, no unfinished business, so we're at current business and we have quite a bit. So the first one is the encampment bylaw investigation process with Mr. Kress, our Director of Protective Services.
Mayor, council, sorry about the voice. We wanted to do a briefing on how bylaw and encampments dealt with. So for bylaw enforcement process, when we receive a complaint, we create a file and an officer will go and check, see if it's a legitimate complaint. If the complaint is deemed valid, then, or invalid, the file is closed. If the complaint is in the scope, defers to, if it's out of our scope, then we defer it to a proper agency. If it's deemed legit, officer will start a compliance order. When the compliance order is completed, the file will be closed. Or when the compliance is completed, the file will be closed. If a resident is working towards a compliance and the situation readable, the officer may provide extension to the people. So if they're working on it, we can provide them extension if they're working on it. If non-compliance, the officer will fine the occupant or owner and commence work on behalf of the owner with the cost going to the tax roll. If it is unsightly property or small cleanups and grass we'll do the tax roll. If it's a large unsightly property, then we are gonna be going before Court of King's Bench to get an order to the cleanup so that we're covered under the court. Correct. Question. If you don't mind. Is that dealing with regular bylaw enforcement or is that the bylaw? Oh, it's bylaw and encampment. So no, this is just bylaw alone. Okay, so this is just bylaw alone. This is what we're dealing with bylaw first. Okay, well, I'll speak on the encampment here. Okay. So that's what we'll do with them ones there. So for encampment, oh, sorry. Okay, so an officer will receive an encampment report or identify an encampment. So if we come across an encampment right away, The officer will determine if the location is on public or private property, active or abandoned. If deemed to be private property, the owner will contact the owner, inform and advise. If determined on public property, it is a small vacant cleanup. Cleanup will occur immediately right there. We'll do the cleanup on the spot. If it's on public land, it's incurred and encampment is large. It will require coordinated efforts with the crew with the RCMP intend the cleanup. If the encampment is active, we'll give a 24-hour notice that we're coming in to notify the occupants that they have a legal encampment. Fail to comply will occur, the RCMP and a crew will attend the next day the encampment to ensure and store items and the clear property effects in town in accordance by the bylaw. So we'll store them for up to 30 days, their personal effects and that stuff. And if they come after it, then they can get them. So that's what the bylaw encampment side will deal with.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Kress, at this point? Councillor Carden?
I noticed in this flow chart, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory for the most part, but there are no timelines on this. And what I'm asking, I think this is coming from my request on a certain encampment in town that I had reported it, it was on private property. I'd reported it 3 times over probably 3 months, and it was still active and not being addressed. And I was asking, how much time do you give the landowner to deal with it before we take action, that sort of thing? And there are no timelines in this, and that's more what I was looking for.
So, speaking on that one there, that one was dealt with another agency prior to us. So RCMP were dealing with that encampment prior to us. So they were looking after that one prior to us, and then it got turned over to us once there was a fire, and we dealt with it after that. But they had dealt with it up to that point. Usually what we'll do is we'll go in, we'll notify the owners, give the owners a chance to clean it up or get rid of the encampment themselves. So,
Any sort of timeline?
depending on how big it is. So if it's unsightly, it depends on if it's grass, branches, used cars, equipment, that kind of stuff. It just varies anywhere from 24, 48. Well, these are my hours that I give the guys. 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, 7 days, 14 days. Limit of max is what we do, them are the hours, depending on what we're cleaning up. If it's a grass or weeds, or if it's an emergency, 24-hour notice, you have to clean it. But if it's big trees and that stuff, then we'll say, okay, or if we have to mail it, 7 days under the MGA, we have to mail it 7 days minimum.
That's another question. Is it sent registered mail when you notify the owners, or how do you contact them?
We usually post it on the property or mail it by regular mail. If it's needs to be with fines and that, then we can do registered mail as well, but we can do it all by regular mail.
Councillor Good?
Yeah, I'm still a little bit unclear under the encampment process.
Okay.
And I think what Brad was talking about was if there's an encampment on private land, forget whether it's neat, cleaner, or whatever. Let's assume that they have the pens all in a nice order. Let's just assume that. So it's not unsightly, it's not grotesque, it's not whatever. Still not supposed to have an encampment,
Yes,
correct? But this doesn't really say that, and this process says that if it's determined, they'll be advised. And it says if it's on public land, small and vacant cleanup will occur. If it's large, it's going to require a coordinated crew, etc. But it doesn't say what about if it doesn't specify. You've divided into private and public land, but you haven't divided the resulting process into public and private land. I'm not being critical of it,
No.
it's just if somebody's gonna look at this and say, what's gonna happen? If there's an encampment, let's assume it's on private land and the guy's got 10 people keep staying there every night kind of thing on his private land. What kind of timeline are we looking at there? You know, what kind of process or what is the process that we're looking at to have it dealt with? Or is it, we're not sure what we can do, and that's fair too. But then be clear about that, so.
So as you see in the report there, the encampment's just under draft. So that's what we're working on hard right now to get these timelines. It's under draft on the sheet, on our sheets there, the second on the encampment,
Right,
it says draft. So we're still working on that. So every case is a little different. If I walk onto somebody's property and they go, we told them not to be there. Well, if an officer's there with me, with the other, we'll clean the encampment up if nobody's there. It's automatically done.
right,
But if we're there, we'll talk to the homeowner, we'll give the person there 24 hours to move, or vacate from the property. And then we'll return later.
and if they've been told they can stay there,
Well, then we give the homeowner a 24-hour notice that he can't have an encampment, and then they'll end up receiving fines for illegal encampment.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I like the flow chart idea.
Yeah.
I think makes it a little more clear. Councillor Shannon?
Do you actively patrol, looking for encampments, or do you just wait for people to come to you with like the reports? How do you maintain some kind of knowledge on that end?
So we do every morning, we do patrols around town to see if there's any encampments in towns. And then after that, if we do our patrols, we'll do random patrols everywhere. But most times lately, everybody's turning everybody in. If there's an encampment set up, we get a phone call or an email saying that under the program, they'll say there's an encampment at this location.
CAO Miller?
Thank you, Worship. I just want to add that our GIS technician has built a layer for our mapping system similar to what Apex had introduced last year, where our team can now mark where the encampments are and kind of keep track of them to help in their work.
Thank you. I just have, I'm looking on the second flow chart, enforcement tickets, compliance orders, Port of Queens Bench. The second, sort of arrow thing, the first bullet, it says compliance, violation, I can't even say that today, is remedial and file closed. If requested, the complainant may be told that the matter is now closed. Is there any way that the complainant could be just automatically told us, or is there a reason either which way, I guess?
So right now, we're over 900 files, and it's for us, there's only 3 of us working. We are setting up on our automatic online complaint forms that it'll be an automatic reply saying that we are working on their compliance, on their complaint at this time. If it's a large one, then we would try to talk to them, or we always call them to ask additional information to let them know what we're doing.
Thanks. Any other questions of Mr. Kress at this time? Okay, so, time frame for this, you have a lot of files, happening, and you have a draft, one of the spreads or the flow charts is draft, so just kind of, you're working as you get to it, sort of thing, or able to get to it. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, and, I'm hoping this clarifies the process. Any other questions though before we're moving onwards? Okay, thank you, Mr. Kress. Oh, somebody had a comment.
Sorry, Your Worship. I was just gonna say this is a priority for us and we will be moving it forward. And we want to get it online for the public to have access to that. So the bylaw one, I believe we're completed.
Yes.
And we'll get that online as soon as possible. And then as soon as our group can get together to kind of finalize the enforcement one, we'll get that up to in the next couple of weeks.
Yes.
Great, well, thank you for all the work on that one as well. And now maybe someone would move us onwards with the motion for information for this one.
Over the council, accept the briefing regarding encampment and bylaw investigation processes for information.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? It is carried. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have tax forfeiture property disposal with Director Mudford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is disposal of the property resulting from tax forfeiture. Property is 9623 89th Avenue, so lots 42 to 45 inclusive. Block 10, Plan 812, 2308. So that property is in tax arrears. In May 2022, in accordance with the Municipal Government Acts, a report was brought forward to council to set a minimum reserve bid so the property could proceed at tax auction. Council carried motions setting the reserve bid at $88,600 based on the assessed value at that time. The public auction was held July 11, 2022. No bids were received. Subsequently, in January 2025, the administration brought forward 3 properties, including the property in question, seeking council authorization to register tax forfeiture on title for the lands, which enables administration to proceed with next steps in tax arrears recovery, listing these parcels for sale. Registering of tax forfeiture on title allows the municipality to rent, license, lease, or dispose of property at a price as close as reasonably possible to recoup the arrears and taxes owed. Tax forfeiture was registered on title for this property on March 27, 2025, following which the town secured an updated appraisal of the property by Plant and Associates Appraisal Services, Inc., which returned showing a current market value of $54,000. Administration now seeks approval from council to set the listing price for this parcel at the current appraised value and for any future parcels taken under tax forfeiture to be sold for recovery of tax arrears and be granted the authority to execute potential sale. The administration notes that the lots will be consolidated into one title prior to disposal. So the options before council this evening, council established the listing price for 9623 89th Avenue at $54,000 being the appraised market value, and approve current appraised values as the basis for determining a listing price for any parcel taken under tax forfeiture to be sold for recovery of tax arrears, and authorize administration to execute any such sale. So the advantages of this are reduced cost of holding and maintaining parcels. So if we take property under tax forfeiture, we now have to mow the lawn, insure it, etc. Another advantage is we recover the tax arrears when the property is sold. Reduces red tape by eliminating the need to bring forward an RFP to determine a listing price. Having established guidelines and authorities enables a timely and seamless process for administration to follow. It's a defendable listing price, so the MGA requires the municipality to dispose of property as close to market value as possible to recover taxes owed, with any remaining funds being returned to the court for further distribution. Using a current appraised value as a listing price eliminates any legal dispute initiated by the original owner based on the property valuation. There's no disadvantages to this, and the financial implications are recovery of tax arrears, excess proceeds are directed to court for distribution, property reverts from taxable from exempt status on sale, and the cost of obtaining the property appraisal is added to the tax roll and recovered through the proceeds of that sale. Option 2, council established the listing price of 9623 89th Avenue at a value other than the appraised value and authorizes administration to execute a sale. So the advantages for that are it would reduce the cost of holding and maintaining. Now we would recover the tax arrears at the time of sale, and it enables timely negotiation and execution of any sale. There's no disadvantages, and the implications again are recovery of tax arrears, excess proceeds are returned to the original property owner, and property reverts from taxable from exempt. And option 3 would be the council to decline to proceed with options 1 or 2 or both, or such other direction as provided by council. Again, wouldn't know what the advantages of that are. The disadvantages are we retain the property in question, which means we continue to hold that responsibility, and so we're not collecting on that outstanding amount. Financial implications of that, again, it would be an ongoing cost, and there's no nominal administrative time to prepare those additional reports. If council chose to not grant the authority for us to dispose of other parcels in a similar manner, it means every time we have to bring an RFD before you to take that action. And again, the whole time that these properties are sitting on our books, we're not collecting any tax on them. So the recommendation is that council establish the listing price of 9623 89th Avenue, lots 42 to 45 inclusive, block 10, plan 812, 2308 at $54,000, being the appraised market value, and authorize administration to execute a sale. And that council approves current appraised value as the basis for determining a listing price for any parcel taken under tax forfeiture to be sold for recovery of tax arrears, and authorizes administration to execute any such sale. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Councillor Scanlon?
So in what you were sharing there, it sort of sounded like if you ended up selling the property for less than the appraised value, that can get you. Did I hear that right? And maybe some legal issue, or the owner might have like come back on you on that? Like, did I hear that in there somewhere, or did I?
So there's, again, the MGA, there's terminology that they use, but effectively it has to be a supportable value, right? You couldn't just, if hypothetically the property was worth $1 million and there was 100,000 owing on it, for us just to sell it for 100,000 just to collect our share, that could potentially put us at some risk.
Any other questions at this point? So just a little, so it was initially 88,600 based on assessed value, and then it's appraised at 54,000. So does this mean, if this goes forward, that anytime in the future that there would have to be an appraisal done if the property didn't sell first off, I guess?
Right, so for properties that we deem we're going to be disposing of through this method, we would do an appraisal to determine what the fair market value of that property should be, and then add the cost of that appraisal onto what's basically on the tax roll, so what's owing.
And the reason for making all the blocks into one is under one title, why would that happen?
Just to consolidate the parcel, if you look at the photo of it,
Mhm.
or the aerial view, it's 4 little slivers.
Oh, okay,
So we're just consolidating it in one parcel.
thank you. Any other questions at this point? Okay, then, question, or you're making
Get this going.
first motion there?
I'll move that council establish the listing price of 9623 89th Avenue, lots 42 to 45 inclusive, block 10, plan 812, 2308 at $54,000, being the appraised market value, and authorize administration to execute a sale.
No, we're gonna spec two motions, I think. Any further discussion on that motion by Mr. Scanlon? Okay, all those in favor? Great, it is carried. Okay, there's another suggested motion about future ways of dealing with this situation. So who would like to do that? Councillor Good?
Yeah, I'll move the council approves appraised value as the basis for determining a listing price for any parcel taken under tax forfeiture to be sold for recovery of tax arrears, and authorize an administration to execute any such sale.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that motion? Okay, all those in favor? It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Mugford.
Thank you.
And item 3, the refreshed land use bylaw was deleted. So item 4, May 12th, 2025 regular council meeting minutes, amending the adopted minutes. Ms. Parsons?
Meeting council. So this first one is pretty straightforward. I made a mistake and I missed putting in a motion that council made in some of the minutes. So on May 12th, council had a closed session regarding a private land issue, and when they came out of closed session, they had made the motion to authorize administration to engage in formal discussions regarding property Northwest 2083-21-5 and Northeast 2083-21-5 for the purpose of bringing conclusion to landowner concerns made by Councillor Scammellorn, which was emailed to me the next day by our CAO, and just inadvertently missed getting it in those minutes. So hopeful for council to make a motion to adopt the amended minutes and get rid of to destroy the original minutes that were adopted. I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, I guess we should all be reading our minutes a little bit more regular. Somehow or other. Would someone care to make a motion if there, or any discussion? Would someone care to make a motion then?
I'll move the council adopt the amended May 12th, 2025 council meeting minutes to include the following motion, which was carried at such meeting but missed in the official record, and that council direct the original May 12th, 2025 minutes be destroyed. Motion 2505-157A, Councillor Scammellorn moved to authorize administration to engage in formal discussions regarding Northwest 2083-21-5 and Northeast 2083-21-5 for the purpose of bringing conclusion to landowner concerns.
Okay. Any further discussion or comment, Ms. Parsons? That's what we need to do.
No, I was just, the -A is just so that we don't mess up the rest of the numbering going forward, because this was all the way back in May, so the numbers are sequential.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Great, it is carried. And thank you for catching that, Ms. Parsons. Okay, next up, we have the Peace River Municipal Policing Committee bylaw, and Ms. Parsons is gonna brief us on this one too.
Mayor Mauser. So as you'll recall, back in early 2025, we had started talking about how the government of Alberta amended the Police Act to require municipalities of certain sizes to form policing committees. Originally, we had been under the category of establishing a regional policing committee, but the rest of our District West partners, which was the district that we fell in, had opted to ask for an exemption to form their own municipal policing committee. So given that, we followed suit and asked for an exemption. We were given that exemption, and so now we're bringing forward a draft bylaw. I do know, municipalities did have a deadline of February 2025 to start establishing music committees, but the province is very aware that a lot of municipalities are struggling to meet that deadline. And so they've been in correspondence with us and just happy to see progress being made and that we're working to get it established. So they're very happy with that and happy to see that we're making some progress by getting this bylaw in front of council. This is the first look you're having at it. There are some sections where council has discretion and other sections where it's specifically laid out in the regulations, or the act, and so we don't have a lot of leeway there. So I did try within the bylaw and in the report to make note of where those specific sections are. So I'm happy to go through the bylaw, kind of a little bit section by section, if that's what council wants, or if there were particular questions from reading.
Okay, question?
Are alternates permitted on this committee from council?
So there's nothing that speaks to whether or not you can have an alternate. The consideration there would be the alternate would also have to pass the enhanced security record check, which would be an extra cost. There's that, and then the council member as written, so that could change if council wants to change this, but as written, the council member isn't needed for a quorum of the committee, so having the alternate didn't feel as important. But certainly if that's something that council wants, that's an amendment that can happen.
Given that, I would make perhaps a suggestion that council have two members on the committee. If someone's gonna go through all the expense of, being an alternate and having to go through they may as well just also be a member of the committee. It seems like, particularly in Peace River right now, probably a lot of places, that this like policing and whatnot is quite a paramount issue, and so it would be good, in my estimation, that the committee kind of be guaranteed a council rep on it at every meeting, and I think two people just as full members would be better than just one. For the purpose of maintaining that somebody is always there, and then the continuity for the second person, instead of just kind of coming in as a, one-shot alternate, but also, sort of being a full member or being up to speed on everything. That's my opinion.
Okay, so we'll skip into membership a little bit. So if we were to increase that to 2, would there be a recommendation to lower the number of public members to 3, keep it at 4? What would be the preference there?
Given the difficulty sometimes in finding public members for some certain committees, and maybe people would be more interested, this one sounds more interesting, but there's also quite a hurdle to join this committee compared to many others, like say like the MPC, where, okay, you don't need to go through a extended security check, so perhaps it would be easier to find 3 people willing to go through that process than 4.
Or is the rest of council feeling about that?
So at the same time, the province can also add to his committee, right?
That's correct. So the minister, for the ministerial regulation, for a committee that has 3 members, the minister may appoint 1. For a committee of 4 to 6 members, the minister may appoint 2. And for a 7-member committee, they may appoint 3 members. So every time your committee grows, allows more provincial appointees to your committee.
Counselor Good?
There was a section in here about the term, about the time on the term, which was 2 years. So if you elected your 2 guys for the first 2 years, you'd have to have basically 2 other councillors for the second part of the 4-year term. Can they be sort of staggered like you've done with the public members to have a 2 and a 3? So there's some overlap. And because you may get 2 councillors, but it's really hard once councillors are established in roles, as you know, to have all of a sudden, those 2 are no longer part of it. You've got to figure out 2, now you've taken out 4 councillors out of your 7 to do the one task. So I don't know why they're putting the limit of 2 years on there. I mean, I get that's what they want, so they can get what they want, but it does make it difficult to manage.
I think you're gonna run into an issue with one of your counselors being 3 years, because then on the last year, your counselor would only serve a term of 1 year, and would be against the regulation. So you can have a minimum of 2 years, up to a maximum of 3.
Yeah, it just seems to make it kind of difficult to be a council member and do a term, because it usually takes you a year to figure out what's going on. I hate, but it does. It takes you about a year because you're not meeting every week kind of thing. You figure out what's going on, so you've got a year of being somewhat what I would call effective. I'm not being critical on this, but you have a year of being effective. See you later, buddy. We'll do the whole process over again. It seems like a limitation without a good reason behind it. I don't know if they've expelled out the reason for limiting the time limit of a councillor, when they're saying the public could be on there for 3. Our councillors in conflict them too. I mean, I'm just joking, but
Counselor Scamaher?
Perhaps, your first 2 councillors could be appointed to 2 and 3-year terms, and then that way you would have the opportunity for someone to go 2 and 2. And then someone to go 3, which leaves you, I understand what you mean by the math, because now you've got 1 term left in a 4-year situation, but perhaps that member, if they were to not reoffer in the next election, or perhaps not end up back at the council table, they could continue on the committee as a community member. And look, if someone moves away, someone moves away, or something like that happens, so that has to be, that has to be accommodated for.
So the regulation does say that once they cease being a member of council, they would cease to be a part of that committee. So it wouldn't really work to transition them. They'd have to probably reapply.
But if they don't get elected, they don't get elected, and you find a new person anyways, whatever.
Counselor Shannon?
So just to clarify on the minister's appointees, So right now, like, taking into account Councillor Scannahorn's, suggestion, if we had 3 public members and 2 council members, that would make, the government could appoint 2 people, correct? So are they appointing public members, or are they appointing members out of our area, or who are those members? I'm not getting why they are appointing, or maybe just kind of clarify who those people are going to be. Are they going to be people from our area, or are they going to be part of government organizations, et cetera?
My understanding was they would be provincial representatives.
I guess on the point Mr. Stamhorn was making, I'm not necessarily opposed to two-year terms, because for one thing, it could allow more of council to get involved in a way. And we seem it's very important in our community, obviously. Councilor Good?
Maybe because I overlooked a section that I should have read, but I did go through this, and after you served your 2-year term, can you repeat? Can you you serve for the first 2 years, can you serve again for the second 2 years, or is it a rotation?
So for public members at large, I said may serve, or the bylaw says may serve up to 2 consecutive terms before a mandatory 1-year absence. I didn't say specifically for council, because I feel like that's a council decision at their org meeting. So council members are typically appointed to these committees at their organizational meeting, so that this one would be an exception where you're only appointed once every 2 years because of how the regulation is written, that you have to serve
Okay,
for
so
2.
there's nothing here that's precluding council from re-upping the person for the second 2-year term.
Right.
Okay, if that's in there, then that answers my concern. It just looked like there was some kind of, based on all the other stuff the province is doing, but mayor members, it looked like they were trying to limit the term. So you could do 4. Okay.
So if no one else has a specific question, maybe Ms. Parsons, if you want to highlight anything else in particular that seems, stand out somehow in your mind?
Sure, just I'll go through it pretty quickly. Section 7 outlines the duties and functions of the committee. That list and the basic wording is taken directly from the police governance regulation. So like I said in the report, if there was something else that council wanted to see, we could add a duty or function. But those ones are the mandated ones under the regulation. So we can't make any changes to those. I think we've discussed membership pretty well. I have one question out to the province right now about the advisory non-voting members and whether or not they are also required to get the enhanced security check. Wasn't 100% clear, so we're waiting for a response on that. Public members at large, just requiring them to meet the requirements of the Police Act, which was to swear the oath of office and pass the enhanced security check. Being a resident of the town of Peterborough. The chair and vice chair, so the regulation does state that the chair and vice chair will be elected annually at the first meeting of the year. That's written right in there, so.
So does the first meeting of the year mean the first meeting after our org meeting, or like a calendar? Or what is a year?
I think that would be just established by the municipality. What is that committee's first meeting of the year? So yeah, it could be following the org meeting, for sure. Section 18, council may remove a public member or a council member from the committee at any time for cause by resolution of council. So this was in the ministerial regulation as well, but cause was not defined. So in section 23, provided a little bit more clarity for us what cause might be. So would just be curious if council was okay with how that's written. And the rest of the bylaw, fairly straightforward, just how they're going to report back to council. It's 34, the development of the yearly plan of priorities and strategies and the community safety plan. Again, that's part of the regulation, so that's just something that they have to do. And then the committee reporting to the minister as outlined in the police act. It just says that they must report to the minister annually or as requested, so that will be something that the committee has to do. And I'm happy to any further discussion and take any more questions.
So it's my impression that this is a fairly, I guess it's gonna be, a committee that is gonna have great influence over how our, local RCMP or policing, happens.
From what they say their duties and roles are, it appears that way that they're gonna have a lot of interaction with the agreement that we have and the hiring of a new chief commanding officer, so.
And also, it seems to me that, I'm losing the thought here. What was it? I've lost the thought, sorry. Okay, they're very influential locally, and at the same time, they seem to have oversight over some of the administrative aspects of the committee or of the policing in our area. And I know what the question was. So right now, we have a municipal detachment and a regional detachment that all work under one commander. So we, as a council, have indicated to them what our priorities are. And then that goes to the staff sergeant or powers that be, and they combine with the regional and say, okay, here's your priorities. I'm wondering if this municipal committee is going to be able to stick with whatever priorities they have for the town versus, maybe they're the same as the region, but how that will come together as well.
Yeah, that will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see too, because those councils that are the MDs and the smaller communities who might be a part of our detachment are represented by the provincial policing committee that was also created under the revisions to the Police Act. So it'll just be interesting to see how those committees interact with our committees and how the regional detachments work with the different committees to set those priorities and weighing balance them.
Yeah.
And interesting to see.
Yes, and the other thing, I'm looking at a section 28 of something here, it's public compliance director.
Mhm.
And it seems that this policing committee will have somebody appointed to do that kind of thing as well.
So that will be, I did ask about that because in the bill that amends the Police Act, that section is meant to be repealed. But then I noticed when they brought out the Police Act with these committees, it wasn't repealed. And so I did email to ask about that, and they said that it's just going in stages and that repeal is coming forward in the fall. And so many municipalities are just opting to leave that out to not have to amend their bylaw when theoretically that amendment also passes and they remove that public complaints director, the piece. So we also just opted to leave it out so as to not have to amend later.
Any other questions, councilors? So the thought is that we would get this through first reading tonight, and then it would come back as required.
I hadn't anticipated asking for first reading
I think I'm
tonight,
reading the wrong, consideration of first reading.
to bring it back to the next council meeting for
Oh,
consideration of first. Just because this was council's first time looking at it, I wasn't sure how much discussion for changes you might want to see with the first draft. But so yeah, looking to bring it forward at the first meeting in September for first reading.
Great, so we can have another good look over it and talk about it again at that point in time. Okay, any further discussion on this one? Council Ford, do you want to move the motion on this?
Sure, I move that council direct administration to return the Peace River Municipal Policing Committee bylaw to the next regular meeting of council for consideration of first reading.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? It is carried. Thank you, Ms. Parsons, for all the work on that one. And then next up is the Peace Regional Healthcare Attraction Retention Committee bylaw.
Thank you, Mayor Nancy. So this again was one that we previously talked about a little bit. There was two bylaws that two committees that we had that were established by terms of reference, but they didn't have accompanying bylaws, which is a requirement under the MGA. And they do really help to just set some structure for the committees and give it administration and the committee clarity on, you know, roles and who's doing what, kind of ownership of the committee. So we wanted to bring forward these bylaws, hopefully to be in place before the municipal election, just so that, you know, the new org meeting can happen and everything can just flow easily without some of this historical missing pieces. So in drafting the bylaw, really tried to stick with what the terms of reference said and just add a little bit of clarity with them. So the membership appointment has remained the same. The objectives have remained the same. Just clearing up, this helps clear up a little bit about who would be some of the advisory non-voting members when it comes to administration. So, you know, having an administrative liaison and reporting secretary. It really does also clarify that it's a town of Peace River committee with regional input. And so we did also send this to our regional partners who have members on the committee just for comment to their administration. Did receive some comment back from Northern Sunrise County, which was really appreciated and actually captured in the bylaw that is before you. So the other change that is a little bit different is the expiry after, you know, serving 4 years, they would have a 1-year absence. I did include that this 1-year absence could be waived by council because that isn't something that has been a practice of this committee. And so I felt that was important to capture in here because they get a pretty good flow going with their members and the work that they're doing. So a little bit of balance between having it open for other people who are also maybe interested in serving versus, you know, if we're struggling to get members and they're doing really good work, that we're allowing those members to stay on and continue to do that work if we're not, we're having trouble getting participation. And I also added in some clarity around the financial resources. So we, you know, added some language, just clarifying, you know, that they do have their own budget. They've been operating that way for as long as I've been here and before that, as far as I'm aware, that they've been able to ask each of the participating member municipalities for funding. Usually ranging in around the amount of $2,000. They don't ask every year. It's more when their funds are starting to get low. So that's been captured in here. The question did come up, what happens if one of our members decides that they don't want to pay that membership fee? Which could happen. And so put in there that if they didn't want to, their membership would be downgraded to just an advisory member. So they wouldn't have any voting power, but they could still participate in the committee. That's at council's discretion. That was just a proposal of how we could deal with that. And then just clarifying that any financial contributions outside of that, you know, has to have the authorization of council and the town, and seek authorization from any other councils that they might be seeking that funding for. Same with any, you know, larger, for example, the RHPAP biannual conference that they're putting in a bid to do in 2026, that came to council for approval. So bigger projects like that, just putting clarity that, you know, you recommend to town to do these things before they kick kick off the projects. And so then also just added, some reporting requirements just to, close that gap a little bit. Sometimes we don't hear from our committees maybe as much as we might want to. So just asking that they report to council once a year. And otherwise, I think it follows the terms of reference pretty closely. Free to take any questions.
So just with respect to your last point there, I think it's number 33. This annual report, when is the year end for the annual report?
I certainly feel the committee could decide, when they would submit that report. They do have the 4 meetings, so perhaps it would be, maybe it would be November, or maybe it would be February. I think the committee could decide what their annual report timing looks like. I don't think we need to be too prescriptive because it can really depend, if they clear up and get this kicked off and get a report to council in May, maybe then it continues every year in May. So I think it's good to leave a little bit of flexibility of when that annual report happens, just as long as it's happening once a year.
And I noticed another element in here with the finances, someplace it says the committee would ask, the municipalities by September or in September for, whatever they're asked, if there is one.
Yes, thank you. That is an add. So just clarifying, it's always said in the terms of reference that the committee can ask for that annual membership fee, but it didn't have a timeline. So added just asking by September of each year. So that gives enough time for each of the participating municipalities, including the town, to work that into their budget, so should they so choose. The other piece that I did add was the ability to terminate a member's appointment, expanded on that just a little bit from the terms of reference. So in the terms of reference, they have the absent for 3 consecutive meetings, you could be terminated. But we also added acts of bad faith with malicious intent, or, discloses private or confidential information, just pretty standard.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion on this item? Okay, then, maybe someone would, Ms. Parsons, if you have no other points you want to bring up. Okay, you're good.
No, thank you. This again was the first time I was going in front of council, so was just looking to have a bit of a conversation and get direction to bring it forward for first reading at the next regular meeting.
Okay, so maybe someone would work the motion on that one, Councillor Shannon?
Move the council direct administration to return the Peace Regional Healthcare Attraction and Retention Committee bylaw to the next regular meeting of council for consideration of first reading.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Great, it is carried. Okay, next up, we have a discretionary budget increase request, CAO Miller and Deputy Mayor Boychuk.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm bringing this request forward for council's consideration, seeking additional discretionary funding of $2,900 on behalf of Councillor Boychuk. So to date, council is granted $4,500 per year for discretionary funding for different education and opportunities and training opportunities. To date, Councillor Boychuk, or Deputy Mayor Boychuk, has exceeded his discretionary budget by roughly $1,200. And we have an additional request to attend a Recovery, Capital, Mental Health and Addictions Recovery Conference coming up in September. In addition, the conference does have an opportunity for some cancellation, so we've canceled part of the conference, the hotels and whatnot to date, but the registration still stands and there's still opportunity should council approve this additional request to secure some hotel accommodation. Reasons, although Council or Deputy Mayor Boychuk is not intending to rerun, he has listed 6 very strong arguments for attending this conference. And I thought perhaps he'd like to speak to those.
Thank you, CEO Miller. As many of you know that our town has been in need of advocacy for several services, especially around mental health and addictions. And I've put a lot of time and effort into bringing a lot of those to our community. Last year, Minister Williams strongly advised me to attend this meeting on behalf of our town, and I was unable to due to the time restraints and last year. So I put in for this in February and not really understanding how my budget was working. I knew I had 12 discretionary days and including this would take up 6 of those days. So I didn't realize I was over budget as far as in the other areas with training and stuff like that. I do believe that attending this conference as deputy mayor will continue to build this relationship that we have been building with those in the recovery area and attract a lot more positive attention to our community of what is being done. And it gives me an opportunity to speak to a lot of government officials and recovery officials on what we are doing in our community and how our community is working at resolving a lot of these issues. So the feedback I've heard a lot about our community is very positive. I'm in constant contact with the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions and the Minister of Social Services now lately. So I think, you know, I had a hard time bringing this forward because I'm a very cheap person and I don't like spending money either. But when I looked at the importance of this, I thought for the small amount of value that this is going to cost us, the return that we're going to get is going to be phenomenal. So that's kind of where I'm there. I did guys send you out a copy of my per diem expenses there, but I didn't get to attach it. And some of the conferences I've attended, I've never even claimed wages for those conferences that I have attended. So, and I don't plan on doing that on this one either.
CAO Miller?
First, my mistake, I thought the event was in Edmonton, sorry, I see it's in Calgary. I did want to just add that each counselor is given $4,500 discretionary budget, as mentioned. And there are some counselors who have not anywhere near spent that, so there would be funds available within council's travel budget to fund this request.
Thank you. Okay, so any discussion, or sorry, Councillor or Deputy Mayor?
I also forgot to mention that I was with its new 14 regional advisory councils that have been selected to serve on the Peace River one for the next 3 years. So this will go a long ways to supporting our medical staff and clients here in our community as well.
Thank you. Okay, other questions, discussions on this one? Councillor Shan?
So I do have a problem with this one, and out of courtesy, I've already informed Deputy Mayor Boyd of my concerns. The first year we had this discretionary budget, does somebody else have their thing on? I'm echoing.
Thing sometimes.
Oh, okay. The first year, I know that some of us went over on our budgetary because we were just getting used to it. The second year, we all knew our budgetary status. At the beginning of the year, I actually literally met with Kayla and got all my stuff in order of what I would like to attend because there was a lot that we could have attended. My focus was economic development and development of our town to increase our tax base, which would make the social services and stuff that we want more achievable. So I would argue that the things I do is just as important as the things anybody else does at this table. They're going to either benefit us or not. But the problem is when you come right down to it, budgets are for a reason. When I asked someone, I actually asked Kayla this when I was asking, okay, if I go over my budget, why can't we borrow from someone else's? And I was told at that time that wasn't at all possible, that we don't dip into others' budgets. You have the budget. Yes, they're all important. All these conferences are important, but is it not our responsibility to make sure that we're well in line? And if you aren't running again, like we're going to invest another $3,000 in someone that's not on our council, we could say it'll benefit Peace River in the long run, but so will a lot of other things that we do not or do fund. So that's what I have to say on it, and being that it is a financial matter so late in the term, I would like a recorded vote on this, please, and thank you.
Any other comments? Councilor Ford?
Just for Deputy Mayor, can you comment as far as like a go forward plan? Like, this is so close to the election, I'm not sure if you're running again or not. But what is your go forward plan with this whole conference?
If you look at point number 6, when I say demonstrating long-term commitment, says my decision to attend shows that my involvement in recovery, housing, and mental health is not just political, it's personal and rooted in genuine desire to see positive change. And so I plan on continuing to work in this community in the current role that I have around mental health and addictions, and keep advocating as a private citizen with the relationships that I built to keep bringing new services and stuff to our community and assistance.
Thank you. Any other, Councilor Ford?
And you would, if you and I had some private discussion quite some time ago, but are you still planning on doing this all in our community, even though you were thinking of moving to the city?
My focus is Peace River. I'm dedicated to Peace River, and you know, I can't speak on next year what's gonna happen, but I've invested a lot of time in our mental health task force and guiding the region, and I want to continue to do that. And yeah, it's just, I put a plan in 10 years ago to end homelessness in Peace River, and I don't plan on stopping until that comes to complete, whether I live in Grimshaw or Northern Sunrise or Edmonton.
Thank you. Councilor Scammer?
Prior to, Deputy Mayor Boychuk being on council, he did put in a lot of time, so this, I would view this as not something that he just kind of picked up for this term, but something that I've seen him be dedicated through, and doing so out of pocket, like, you know, I think we've seen him do a lot of this stuff, you know, out of pocket, prior to being on council. I think it would be good if Peace River did have a representative here, and if Peace River is going to have a representation there, I think it's important that we send the best person there, and so that's my feeling on it.
Thank you. Councilor Shannon?
I don't think it's a matter of what we did or what we don't do for no pay or out of our pocket. That's not what we're discussing here, because if we are, I could give you a laundry list of things I've done both on council and before council to move Peace River ahead in many ways. And I don't ever use that as a reason to, you know, go over my budget, or there are many of these conferences. I could argue that I should be able to go to another $5,000 conference to do with economic development and development, again, to increase our tax base, to be able to pay for things like social services. But in good conscience, I can't do that because we were given a budget. And like I say, all of our causes are important. There is no one cause more important than the other here. And, you know, I think it's the principle here that's, I'm not agreeing with it.
Well, I will say that I think it was last year that something came up that I was over my allotment and came to council. I forget what the actual seminar conference was.
It was a medical attraction retention thing in Grand Prairie.
Okay, and so I came and I did get funding to attend that. I'm just saying that. Yes.
But you didn't know about that beforehand. That was, I believe that we knew about this conference quite a bit ahead of time. So if you wanted to go, you could have planned to make sure that you had enough left at the end for that one, since it's so close to the end of the term. I remember yours. That was one that came up unexpectedly, and it was for it was a conference for the medical field.
Thank you. Any Councillor Ford?
Yeah, mine's more of an administrative question, because a comment that Councillor Shannon made, I actually don't remember, but when it comes to councillors' budgets, that $4,500, So that would carry, if you didn't use it 1 year, you could carry over to the next year?
Correct, you can carry over your discretionary budget, not your days
Right,
per diem per day.
and this year, because it's election year, there is no carryover.
Correct.
So how does that, and like I say, I don't remember the comment well, if one counselor used up all their budget and another one didn't use theirs, and to stay with it so that a counselor can, like, for instance, myself, I'm not even nowhere as close
Right.
to those funds. So I guess going back to Counselor Shannon's comment, can those funds be used elsewhere?
So there,
Or are those,
my apologies. So there is unspent budget amongst yourselves in your allocations. You can't just arbitrarily trade amongst yourself. You can't say, hey, counselor, good, you can take my money. But certainly council has, by way of motion here, authorizing such a request. It would just come out of that council travel budget.
yeah, I just wanted some clarification on that.
Counselor Good?
Well, I think going forward, I'm still thinking about present, but I think going forward, that should be something that is discussed, because there are, some of us are basically employed 5 days a week, 6 days, 7 days, depending on what we do as a living. I mean, you take a look at, an example of a tradesman, for example, who could argue that he's employed 7 days a week, and I know when I had my store, I certainly was. I used to joke that I used to like weekends because I only had to work 2 days, where the rest of the week I had to work 5. And I think a lot of people are in that boat, and some of us have freedom in time, which we allocate to our municipalities. And other people serve in different ways. I think there should be a discussion, if it's not, I think there should be a discussion with the next term, with people on the next term, that if there's this amount budgeted for courses and whatever, people have it, they should be allowed to move it. And to leave it, say, if I'm not gonna use this, put that back into the kitty, and then council will make a decision as how that can be best spent. Having said that, I think council has the opportunity tonight by motion to say that we consider this money to be well spent. So I'm putting my argument into 2 separate sections. I think that, yes, we have to revisit that going forward, and I think that's something that should be brought up. I think if it wasn't considered in the past, that doesn't preclude being considered now. I don't think it stops the council from making a decision tonight. My personal feeling is, knowing how much work the people put in, and I'm not questioning any work that you do, Shelley, at all. I've seen the work you do on economic development, and to be honest with you, you've been extremely dedicated in that area. I'm saying that openly, complimentary, in a complimentary fashion. I haven't had the opportunity, because of my work, to have as much time to go to different things as you have, for example, and possibly Mark. In this case, I'm comfortable with saying I'm okay with the allocation of the dollars, because I do think the money will be well spent. Because I do think that our community will be well served by it. I'm fine with the recorded vote, because that's how I feel. So I'm not arguing against the recorded vote either. But I think it's brought something up to our attention that we should have within our constraints of budgeting, when we have a certain amount allocated to achieve services for our community, we shouldn't be really rigid all the time on how we're going to say, well, it's within that budget. I do understand the concern. And I'm not accusing you of that. I'm just saying that I think we have an opportunity to do something a little bit better. And a little bit better is when I take a look at the amount of work that Deputy Mayor Boychuk has done in terms of the citizens of our community. I have no question that he wouldn't be asking for this if he didn't think it would be a valid enough return. That's my faith in you, Mark, and my faith in you as the person you've been. So I'm fine with it. I'm fine with I'm fine with moving the dollars from our budgets to that. I'm just comfortable with it. So, recorded vote, whatever, I'm okay with it.
Councillor Carter, did you want to make any comment at this point?
I'm really quite torn by this. I try to support Mark on everything in this area because he's very committed to it. But on the other hand, I question the value of the tax dollars being spent at the end of the term. When you won't be returning to council and you may be leaving the community. It's unfortunate that there was a misunderstanding on the allocation of the funds and days. And to be honest, I'm not real clear on that either, but I don't attend very many conferences, so I'm pretty sure I'm not in conflict. Yeah, I'm really quite torn by this. I really am torn. That's all I can say. Thank you.
I guess, if, Mr. Boychuk is to go to this conference, the thing is, he will be mentioning Peace River odds and ends of times, I'm assuming, to the powers that be. So we would get that longer term, no matter who sits on the mental health task force from the committee or from the council in future. Just bringing that up as a point. So any other points that someone would like to bring forth? Well, okay, then, sorry.
If not, I'll make a motion, and we can go whichever way it goes. I'll move the council approve the attendance of Deputy Mayor Bart Boychuk at the Alberta Recovery Conference in Calgary in September 25. And the council authorize the allocation of $2,900 for the operating budget. I don't know if I want to put something in here that would be from section of our operating budget, or just leave it as it is.
Yeah.
Okay. To cover all costs of participation, including registration, travel, accommodation, and meals.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all of those in favor? And opposed? Okay, and I should read for the record, in favor were Good, Ford, Manzer, Scammahorn, Boychuk. Against were Carr, Shan. So it is carried. Thank you. Okay, we are now on to reports and, oh, do I still have another one? Oh, sorry. Okay, the Peace Regional Mental Health Addictions and Task Force report. So this one was one that was added to our agenda, which I think today. So, Deputy Mayor Boychuk, Councillor Carr, and Councillor Good are going to speak to this, I believe.
I wouldn't mind speaking to this, or you can speak to it, Mark, or you prefer. Okay. I'm not sure how many of you had a chance to read this, and I'd like to go over a couple things on it. One, this was, the first meeting we had about the report we were going to bring to council came the second report that we were going to bring to council, which is finally here. And the one question that was really asked at the last meeting was to give some direction and some advice to council as to the role of council and what we would like to see. But before I want to get into that, I want to talk a bit about another couple of parts on the report. There was a big part at the beginning about the community impact, the business burden, and the residents' concerns. And those were echoed out of the report that we received from the mental health task force. There were there was the part about the current challenges, including the friction points. And some of them are worded, I think, kind of harshly, but they were words that were in the report. And so they've been kept as close as we could without losing it. And one of the comments in there was the release of individuals from correctional facilities without support. I'm not sure that that's an accurate statement that is without support. I think a more accurate statement would be that they're being released potentially without needed supports and without desired supports rather than without support. I wanted to clarify that. The other part I wanted to talk about was lack of in-jail programming and discharge planning. I don't think there's a lack of planning. And I don't think, but though I think that there could be for any number of reasons, and I'm not even sure I like the word lack, because I know there's really good in-jail programming. There are people who come out better than they went in. There are people who come out with the anger management training, the courses that are available to prison and the counseling that is available. And I don't want this to report to say that we don't acknowledge those things and respect those things. And the second part, I'll continue, the second part, we talked about the Recovery Alberta team and the work that they've done. So I just want to bring in that this is not really in my mind a negative thing, but the focus that we were asked to bring back was to a large extent what we see the role of the council and what we see our role in the community. And Brad and Mark and I had quite a lot of discussion around how to word this, how to come up with what we felt our job. We don't feel that it is council's role in a vacuum to solve this problem. As a matter of fact, in a way, I'm not so sure it is our problem to solve on our own. And as they say, to fill in the gaps. I'm not sure that that's our role, but what we did understand is specifically is our role. Well, our strategic plan talked about fostering a safe community. And the potential strategy in that was to work with community partners to roll out new community safety strategies. And we see the role of the town of Peace River to support, advocate, and lobby for existing groups that are willing to take on these initiatives. These include any number of groups that are around the town. We have our hospitals, we have our medical groups, we have people, we have the mental health task force, we have all kinds of groups that are working on different aspects of addressing the homelessness issue. And I think mainly is to advocate for good funding, for continuing services, to end up with wraparound services in our communities. I've taken a look at what the province has done in increasing the number of available services in the cities that we have in Alberta. And to be honest with you, they've done a lot. There's been a lot of work done in this province for homelessness. It hasn't filtered down to a lot of the smaller communities yet, but you can't, what do they say? Rome wasn't built in a day. I don't think it's because of lack of intent. So I'm not being critical here, but I think those services have to at some point come to our community. We are dealing with things like the correctional center, which most small communities don't deal with. That's an issue that is affecting us. We're a larger urban community within a large, predominantly rural community. That's something that not all small towns have. Some small towns don't have that, even though they're in a rural community. They're not seen as the regional center. We are. So I think we want to talk about our role to advocate and lobby for existing groups that are willing to take on these initiatives. We will continue to advocate for PRCC to release their clients with supports that set them up for success and a means to return to their communities or other supportive situations, rather than, I'm not even sure I like the word simply, rather than dropping them off in downtown Peace River. For example, if a person is sent to the remand center from XYZ community outside of our community, why aren't they taken back there? If you're going to make somebody whole, you put them in the place where they were. If they get their car stolen, you give them a replacement car. If they're taken from their community, come up here, they should be returned to their community. And that shouldn't fall on us to provide the service. It should fall on the people who brought them. Should everybody say, you go to the dance with them, what brought you? You should be able to return to your community with dignity, with respect, and with compassion. And we also believe that the provincial funding has to be adequate. So we will advocate for the province to fund transitional housing and adequate policing. And that's no criticism in that statement alone about what the policing is or isn't, but we want them to be funded well enough to be able to accomplish the tasks that our municipality needs. You know, and it was put in here, moving forward, Peace River needs a coordinated, compassionate, and practical response. One that brings together government, law enforcement, healthcare, businesses, indigenous partners, and community voices. And the rest of the report is basically an expansion on those core ideas. So that's what we wanted to bring back for you. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all about that. And Mark and Brad, if you have comments to add, I'd really be happy with that.
Councilor Carr, Deputy Mayor Boychuk, anything further at this point?
Not really, no, covered the three items.
Councilor Scantlebury?
Perhaps this would be a really good document to help inform next term's council's strategic plan in this regard. And give one of those pillars and then, and some of the supporting items that the future council can action under that particular pillar. So it's very good, clarifying, visual and easy to engage with documents. Thank you.
Councilor Shannon?
So is the report coming from the mental health task force?
No, and that was something actually that I brought up. Spoke to Kayla about that, and I said, you know, in our email that came out this morning, it said it was the mental health task force report. It's not. This is our looking at that report and talking about what we see as our key action areas, what we see as council's role in fulfilling the desires of that task force. So yeah.
So who do you envision to be the lead here? Who is the lead organization that's gonna do all this? And, you know, because are we still gonna end up with three organizations trying to do the same thing? Or are all these gonna be kind of led by one of, I know these are council ideas, but at some point, these have to be handed to a organization to carry out. So how would that?
I'll be clear, I'm not 100% sure that I think it has to be handled to one organization to carry out. If it is, it's the provincial government's responsibility, to a large extent. I think that a lot of these things have to be achieved by them. Our job is to advocate for the groups that are set up to provide it. For example, PRCC, it's our job to advocate for the things that they need. That's our job. It's not they're doing it too, but we're going to do it too. But I don't think it's our job, as I said, to fill the gaps. If somebody else is not taking care of it, it doesn't necessarily fall on the town of Peace River, necessarily to provide the service if somebody else is not living up to what we would believe is their responsibility. So I'm not sure there has to be somebody leading it. I think the mental health task force, the regional body, may be the group, but I want them to have a clear understanding of what we see the town of Peace River's role in this, and then a clear understanding of what they see the MD of Peace's role, for example, if there is one, or Grimshaw, or the women's shelter.
Okay, so for example, community outreach and intervention team. Do we not already have that in Peace River at the Sagatow? Do we still have the outreach or a means of getting it there? And then, for example, on an item like that, who would pay for that? Where would the funding come? Pay for that?
I would assume not the town of Peace River necessarily. So what I'm saying is we would advocate on let's say Sagatow, use for an example. What I see the council's role is to advocate for the things that Sagatow would need to help the town of Peace River achieve its goals here. We would advocate with the women's shelter. Because when the women's shelter houses somebody, they keep somebody off the street, which helps with homelessness. So we would advocate for the women's shelter to have adequate funding, as we did when they had the mold problem. We would advocate for North Peace housing, for example, potentially. We could advocate for the Métis housing if they needed something. We can advocate for any group that's going to help the town of Peace River have the goals achieved that we need to be achieved, regardless of whose responsibilities they are.
So I guess, like, I see all this is being very good. My question though still is, how does the mental health task force fit into this? And whether the mental health task force becomes something like well, we just went over a bylaw with the healthcare, commit. Do we have a mental health committee or whatever the name is? But it has some parameters under town of Peace River operations or it's a group out there that's not any municipality or anything like that.
Well, that's a good example, actually, because what authority does the mental health, what does the retention committee have?
Only by its terms of reference and being appointed through the town of Peace River and with reps from,
But it doesn't mean that it is our responsibility to staff the hospital.
no,
Okay, and that's where I'm talking about the differentiation in the role. I don't see the town of Peace River's role necessarily solve the whole, the homelessness issue.
yeah, but my point is to get it clear in people's minds a little bit more, because the mental health task force has been in operation for, I don't know, 2-3 years now. 4 years, yeah, 4 years. So to get it a little bit more clarified in the minds of admin and some of us around the table as to what it is doing, and if it's doing all of these things, well, then can we put it into a bylaw so we know that that's what it's doing, you know? And then it's clear to everybody and who talks for them and all that good stuff too. Councilor Shannon.
I have one more question. So this is all great. You know, we all kind of knew this stuff, eh? It's all in one place now. We know what we're doing. But my concern is we don't have this yet. And, you know, for example, the shelter will be opening in the fall. We don't have this yet. So in a way, we have still have limited capacity until we can secure some of these things, correct? So what is the plan for the meantime? Like, how long will it take to start getting this stuff going? How are we gonna, mitigate the problems that are gonna come before this can?
Can I speak to that?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer as to how these things are gonna be solved. If I did, I'd be making a much better paycheck than I'm making now. And I'd be also hired by people that are way above my pay grade. I don't have an answer for it, and I don't think anybody does. What we're talking about, I think we're trying to give a clear understanding of is what is council's role? Is it our role to provide, just to throw a thing out there, is it our role of council to provide wraparound services for all those people? No, it's not. Our role is to advocate for that because we know it's needed. And I guess I'm being really blunt in saying that it's not our role to solve this problem. It's our role to assist where we can, but it's not our role to buy the problem other people are causing, because we're not causing homelessness. It's not our problem it's not ours to, for example, solve the crime problem. We have our CMP bylaw officer, we have all kinds of policing supposedly to do that. That's why we had police, was to give us safe communities. If they're not doing it, we can advocate for everything that we think we need to have that. So we're doing a study right now for $80,000 and tell them what we already know. That's great, fine. But we're here to advocate. We're not here to put boots on the ground. We don't have to. So that's what I'm saying. I think we have to be very clear of our role, which is advocating and promoting and trying to get the things we need. Same as if we need doctors, we're going to advocate for getting doctors in medical care.
Yeah, it was more of, I guess, a comment than a question. I just have concerns, like how, in the meantime, kind of thing.
I wish I had the answers.
Yeah, I get it.
Councilor Ford?
Yes, I just wanna say, between the three of you, this is a very, very well written document, like the information is there. It gives council, as you said, it gives council ideas of where to advocate. Especially if you have 10 different groups that are out there, one's doing this, one's doing this, one's doing this. But this group comes and says, hey, look, like we want to do this, and it, like this melds very, very well with our strategic plan when it comes to safe community. So like I say, I really like this and it shows where we can advocate if and when we need to.
Counselor Scanlon?
Yeah, and it's very clarifying, like, oftentimes you hear people say, or maybe write or whatever, well, the town should, and this is what the town should. Like, you can fill in that blank after that statement with this document, particularly if you look at page 9 out of 10. And a lot of these things, you know, we are already doing, like, we've got community events happening, you know, at the end of the month for Alberta Day, we've got a grant to do things. You know, like, those things are in there. We just heard, you know, Director Kress talking about how they are engaging with bylaw and encampments and everything. So that's in here, that is a role that we have a direct part in. But you're right, a lot of it, they're not our cracks. We can advocate for those cracks to be built in our community, but our community first through that. And so this is a very clarifying piece of material to look at when those statements or challenges or whatever come our way as to what we should be doing. It's like, this is it right here. And some of them are dollars that we will spend and action that our admin will take. And some of them are just letters that we're gonna write and conversations we're gonna have.
So I'm gonna go back to my question then. What is the role of mental health task force versus the town peace server? Here's town peace server, very good list and ideas. So are they one and the same? Who think
The
comes
mental
first?
task force
Like-
regionalizes because it is a regional.
So maybe we
It is
need
a
to
regional
stand, we
issue.
need to figure out a little bit more detail what that means then.
I would say, let me jump in. No, we don't. We don't have to define for the mental health task force what their role is.
But
We have to define what our role is. I don't define for the RCMP what their role is. I define what we need and we go to them to get the services. I don't define what Alberta Housing has as their job, their role. We advocate for what we think we need. Then the mental health task force was a group of people that got together to examine the situation and come up with ideas that they have. They have their function. We have ours. We're not to direct, I don't think we're gonna be their boss, and I don't think we should be.
well, I'm not necessarily saying that. It's just, I think the roles are kind of jumbled a little bit. CAO Miller had a point and then Councillor Carr and Mr. Boychuk might have had one too.
Thank you, your worship. The concern on administration side is one, we're appointing counselors to a bunch of people getting around talking about an issue. And so typically when counselors are appointed to something, it's usually a formalized group. And then if they're making decisions, and it could be perceived that, because we're appointing them to that committee and there's no formal guidelines or framework for that committee to work under, then a counselor sitting as appointed at that committee it could cause problems for all of the counselors that are sitting on that committee. Because they're being appointed, which means counselors sanctioning that attendance of kind of what's going on. Yet we don't get any information that comes back. We get a casual report that kind of highlights some of the details that they're talking about, but there's no real information in there for council to know whether you wanted to continue supporting a member of council being appointed to that committee.
Thanks. Okay, I think Councillor Carr.
The purpose to this report was when it was brought to council as a report from the mental health task force. We were asked if we wanted just received for information, and I did not want to see that because it basically dies on the shelf then. I wanted clarification on what was actionable out of that report. That is why we did this report. Whether we choose to do anything about it is further discussion, but this is where this came from.
Okay, understood, I think. Councillor Gavin.
Initially, when I put the task force together, I went before every council in our area and asked for a representative to help work on some of the main issue was being transportation of mental health patients out of our community, and we wanted to advocate for a designated site to be brought into Peace River so that we could keep our RCMP in town, knowing how much of an issue we had. Through the years, we have expanded. We have a very defined terms of reference. We do keep minutes. We agreed that our meetings would be held in camera and that we can have open and frank discussions on how to best serve the region. How we ended up getting into having this workshop was seeing the need for something to be done immediately, especially around the shelter and stuff like that. So wasn't really our mandate to become an organization like this, but we saw the need and we stepped up and we wanted to come through with a document that not only just told us what was happening, is what different agencies and groups could do. And so before councils and all of the councils, the members are going to be bringing it back and they're going to be discussing with their councils what they can do as a region to support our area. And we're redefining the terms of reference. And we're also discussing the future of what's going to happen to the mental health task force. You know, I do see a need for it, and I think we have advocated and changed some pretty important things for our community in the short time frame that we've worked together. So, but the main thing that we wanted to bring up, and I'll speak on to this report, is we just wanted to make sure that, you know, and from my experience, that local council is well aware of what's going on in the community around social issues and have the opportunity to educate themselves and advocate for more supports once they're aware of the issues. Councillor Shannon said we're well aware of this, but if we're all aware of it, we haven't had a plan forever on how to attack this as a council. You know, even myself, I see how much more advantage it would have been if we had worked as a council instead of just myself through a lot of this advocacy, if there was 2 or 3 of us. So I see the importance of that. I really hope that future councils will look at and stay close to the social agencies in their town and find out what's going on and how they can assist them. And one example I brought up to Dawn was that we've had Stepping Up in our community for 17 years, and they lost their funding. And that's a vital service to our community, and yet us on council, we're not aware of that. And I'm remiss as that because I sit on that board, but you know, when we sit down with the ministers that we meet on a regular basis, sometimes twice a year, we need to be pushing for our services in our community. And that's the main goal of having actionable items, not owning it, but educating, being aware, and going after and supporting the services in our town, because we're at a breaking point, and I think we're at a turning point as well, and I think we're going in the right direction. So for the future of the mental health force, that's going to be determined over here the next 2 months if we want to continue that on. If councils want to continue it on, it's not just our council, it's all the other councils, and where we want to go from there. We've realized haven't been the strongest administratively, and so you know there's changes that we need to make. But it's a new organization and a very complex thing, and we've gone through a lot of rides, right from Apex to this massive workshop where we had the mental health and addictions minister show up in short time frame, and many of his staff. And you know, behind the scenes, a lot of these things, these government agencies are now working with our shelter because they were aware of the struggles that they were having. So we've got supports helping them out to run better, just from advocating for support, and that's what we need to continue to do as a municipality, in my opinion.
Thank you. Well, where to go from here now?
Motion for executive commission at this point. I hate to do it, but I'm not sure what we can do. We know we're good. We're talking about that our role is to advocate. We don't need a motion to advocate. That's our job. So I think we accept this report. We were just trying to bring something that we could talk to and say, if you agree with that, accept this for information, you can figure out how you're going to do that and how you're going to advocate, you can figure out the roles and the structures around how your advocation is, how the advocating is done, better communication, all that kind of stuff. But at least we know that's the direction this council is going to do, is to advocate and work with our other communities, and it's now on paper that if we agree, that's what we want to do, and council can make that decision.
Is there any way that we could somehow get formal replies from other councils as to what they're gonna get this done? This was an ad hoc committee of our council. Are they getting this document as well somehow or not? Like it was for our council, this initially at least, but
I plan on sharing it with the other groups to guide them on what to develop for their councils and develop a regional plan from there.
okay, Councillor Skimmer?
Is there a possibility of adding to the motion that we accept it for information and also forward the document on, just for ease of use for the other regional partners to have a look at so they can see where we view our role and maybe that can help them clarify where they view their role?
Why don't we, if we, I understand what Mark is saying, maybe we should advocate, we should talk about, the motion would be to refer it, this report as our response to our response to the task force as where we see our role within this structure. If the task force is gonna take it out to the member municipalities, the partner municipalities, I think that our role is to get it to them, they'll get it out. I don't know, we wanna speak directly because we're not buying the problem. So,
Yeah.
that's just my feeling about it, so.
But just to add something on more than.
Okay, so
Our favorite.
Forward to the mental health task force for. So as they see fit. Somebody can make a motion like that.
Okay. So at some point, this is still then going to come back to this council or next council with that question about how mental health task force fits into the council role or not.
As an official.
Yeah.
Well, it's Mint has a good point, like, where does this land? It's a good question, it's not one to solve in a 10-minute chat, I don't think, but it may be a future group of people to wrestle with and formalize or not.
But then, as Councillor Shannon has mentioned, at this point in time, we know that there are certain issues out there. Maybe more issues upcoming, maybe not, who knows? So then what is kind of the question all the time, then what?
Go back for another answer.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so somebody make a motion so we can move forward on this.
I'll move that let me just have a look at the agenda here. I move that council, accept, the report, for information and forward it on to the mental health task force for their use.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Okay. Everybody's clear on what the motion means? Okay, then, all those in favor? Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Boychuk and fellow committee members for your work on getting this nice document to us very clear. Okay, we learned our lesson a meeting or two ago. We did not have a break around 7 o'clock. We plowed through and around 8 o'clock, we were kind of wondering what we were talking about, well, some of us, myself maybe. So I'm gonna suggest that we take a 5-minute break right now, and then we'll come back and go forth on the reports, which are quite extensive tonight. So, we're having a break, be back here at 6:48. and we're now in section 9, which is reports. And the first one up is Community Services Department, the second quarter report with Mrs. Sell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I won't go line by line, but I definitely wanted to highlight a few things, because this is quite some time ago. We have to put our brains back in April. One of the most significant activities that the Community Services Department and other members of town staff were involved in was a recent activation of our ESS team for Red Earth Creek evacuation. Ironically, we also just received a thank you from the city of Yellowknife from 2023 activation. So Peace River is a quite a spot. We've become quite a location for a lot of communities when they're unfortunately having to be evacuated from their communities. We registered over 390 individuals in the community. So for us, this is one of our smaller activations. But we were still engaged for almost 4 weeks, or just a little bit over 4 weeks. This is not the first time we've had Red Earth Creek. They were here in 2011. So many were returning community members that some of us remembered from 10 years ago. So yeah, it was a great experience, quite a long period of time, but staff did a great job as always. Quite a number of capital projects are on the go, if not complete. Trail overlay is done. Log cabin has been sold and moved just recently. Upcoming Q3 priorities, we are posted for a new Baytex concession operator with closing date later this month, or this week, sorry. Lots of activity at the Baytex as always. Small capital projects continue. We've got tennis and pickleball courts overlay. Though I will note this in Q3, this is the disadvantage of being in Q3, almost the end of it, while talking about Q2 projects. We put out a project for resurfacing those courts, and they are complete and open. So that is done, and we're finishing, we've tendered, and we're hoping to have the front part of the water park resurfaced. Unfortunately, the rubber crumb is being removed by participants. So we're having to resurface that, but that'll happen in Q3. It's scheduled for early September now. What other activities? Lots of events. We supported River Days event at Riverfront Park through our Parks Department and Recreation. Recreation programs was extremely busy as always with lots of activities. Easter egg hunt. Yep, Easter was April. We can remember back that far. They also participated in a number of community events and activities throughout May and June. A couple of significant ones I wanted to make note. Our recreation programmer attended the Aboriginal Career Youth Workshop in Grimshaw, and she spoke as an individual, an Indigenous woman, spoke to potential careers in recreation and municipal government and parks. In addition, Recreation provided a booth and activities and games at River Days, put on by Rotaract, and participated in our Teddy Bears picnic, which I'll get into later. Looking at Q3, a couple of them have already occurred, as always, of course, because we're into Q3, but a note that we do have Alberta Day on Friday. Free barbecue up at the NAR station, celebration of 120 years of being a province, and providing the community an opportunity to check out the NAR station, because quite a number of folks still haven't seen that facility, and it's quite a bit of a historical treasure. The pool, it had an extremely busy spring and summer. We were able to pack in all sorts of great lessons and accessible programming and services, especially for the schools. The Swim Abilities program has been very popular, and we're pleased to expand inclusionary programming for kids through, especially through the school system or homeschooled or individuals, to make sure they have access to our facilities and our programs. Over in FCSS, lots of programming occurring again. There was the volunteer income tax program assisted over 170 individuals, which is really important. People need their taxes completed to ensure that they do have access to all sorts of government supports, which is one of our prevention and poverty reduction strategies. We do have upcoming in Q3 Suicide Awareness Week and assist courses that our FCSS program will spending a lot of time and focus on coming up in Q3. Over at the museum, we've actually seen quite an uptake in participation and visitors to the Visitor Information Center and some of our programs and services. There was a dinosaur exhibit that was offered that was extremely popular, and Mysterious Forest Life. It's a traveling exhibit, and it just happens to be from a local artist of Sharon Crucial. So we're happy to have been able to host that particular exhibit at our local museum. Museum was also involved in River Days. They hosted a booth and games on the Saturday. So there was lots of participation from various areas of our department. Also, just looking ahead for Q3, I wanted to note that we are looking at, after many break-ins, vandalism, graffiti issues at the NAR station, we are looking to adding a fencing system to the back of the building to discourage hanging out, as it were. We also have Apex monitoring security cameras there to add an additional layer of security. We've had a number of potential fire loss incidents, so we've come very close, and we'd like to be very close to not happening at all kind of situation. So we are looking at adding decorative yet
Secure.
fencing around the back deck area to discourage any late activities. I'll just leave it at that. Over at the FRN, another incredibly successful Teddy Bears Picnic with over 1,000 participants. This is one of our significant events that happens over 2 days at the Baytex, hosted by the FRN, with lots of participation of various community organizations and groups. I'm always just shocked by the number of folks that are out there. There's little kids everywhere. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. And then summer programming, they did all sorts of great plans for Q3, and they'll talk a little bit more about that in the next report. And then we follow up or finish off our report with the Taxi Pass program. We're seeing a slight decrease over the months of use, which is not always atypical, as weather is nicer. Some folks tend to walk, so we'll see more what happens in the fall if there's an uptake, but it's staying fairly steady, if not decreasing ever so slightly. So if anyone has any questions, or if I missed anything.
Well, I know your staff has been, well, you and your staff have been very busy over the summer, and lots of positive comments too on the various things that go about. I think sometimes people don't realize it's the town department doing some of the stuff, so okays to your staff for that. I'm wondering in the Baytex, I think there was a little capital plan to put up some kind of barrier between the track and the dressing room. How is that?
We've been contacting particular organizations or companies that have they're a plexiglass barrier wall is what we were looking at, because we did get a quote for construction of a wall. So we were looking at other options. And a couple of the companies have not made it up to actually give us a proper quote yet. So unfortunately, we don't see that happening this season, but we're gonna continue to try to get some of these quotes and figure out what's the best option. And then put it out for public bid when we've got it sorted of what our actual plan is going forward. And we might be able to do it while we're open, we'll see, depends on what type of construction we're looking at.
I do appreciate the need for it in a sense, I was there the other day, people were walking on the track and others were standing on the track looking at this and that, and it's kind of, you know, backing into the people walking and stuff, so I can see, unfortunately,
Yes.
why, but any other questions of the director?
That's just a people barrier if I remember the conversation, right?
That's correct. So people barrier and also flying balls and other things that, yeah, sticks and whatnot, sort of keep the track surface being on the main floor has a disadvantage operationally, unfortunately, so.
I'm sure you've considered it, at Grimshaw, they have kind of a heading sort of idea there, is that not adequate or? My concern with plexiglass is like everyone that puts their hands and faces on it, it's gonna look the way that, you know, glass in an elementary school looks after 9:05, is that it's, you know.
You've been to the Baytex, the glass is very well kept up.
Okay.
Cleanliness. And if we put any more glass in, it would be very well attended to, but that's something else we're looking at. So can we do a half wall of the plexiglass and the upper half is the netting, sort of a compromise between the two? When we looked at a cinder block wall or even a pony wall, then we were, construction wise, it was getting a little more expensive. Plus, we weren't sure we wanted something that permanent versus something like, these are individual panels that you can attach, but if you want to remove them, there's still an opportunity potentially to remove them. So that's why we're still toying with what this potentially could look like.
Great, and I don't know whose department it was, the boat launch part over there, the paving and stuff. is for-
Yeah, and that was all done along with the section of the dike trail, along from heating, Fred's heating. To slightly past Buckholz to approximately the glass building. Yeah, Olas glass, thank you, yeah. And that was done right before the jet boat races happened, so it was perfect time.
Worked out well. Anything else for Director Bill? Well, Councilor Carr?
The resurfacing of the walking path at the north end, that was in last year's budget, I believe. We ran out of time due to negotiations and blah, blah, blah. So the money that would have been allocated for this year's resurfacing, has that been used?
Yes, that was used for the boat launch.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll continue on our repaving process and next year we'll do the next highest grade or graded area that the report provided to us. So we're already talking about getting design work now, completed now, so that we can tender that out as soon as we can in 2026. Hopefully after capital budgets are passed as soon as possible, and then move on to that next section and get that done next year. And we'll just continue on using the report that McElhaney completed for the town. I believe the Community Services Board and Council would have seen it at one time, approximately a year or so ago. Yeah, we'll just continue using that report to guide us on the next pieces that need to be done. So about 150,000 a year is what we're looking at on average.
Great, and Councilor Ford?
I just wanted to mention, I did also notice like during that repaving, there was some new safety railing put up, I believe, down by Buckholz.
Correct.
Okay, well, thank you. And next up, Director of Infrastructure and Development, Mr. Fisher is going to tell us about his second quarter.
Thank you, Mayor Manzer. I kind of wish I wasn't second, so I'm feeling a little bit inadequate. We have made some staffing updates. We hired a municipal energy manager. That's a grant supported program from the province. We did have a new manager of public works hired for a while. We started, advertising for manager of planning and development due to an upcoming leave. And then we had some attrition in our public works department, so we had to replace some positions down there. For capital projects, providing support for our community services team for the trail and boat launch project. Tender and starting construction for the overlay and miscellaneous road patching project. Kickoff on Pat's Creek, so that's data monitoring and alarms, scheduling interviews for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. Kickoff on the Main Street construction project with the province and their contractor. And work on the new town office building, the rental design, so. For the planning and development department, a lot of our effort is actually focused, aside from the operational day-to-day demands, on the land use bylaw, the rewrite project. So there was a couple of consultation events that happened in Q2. Our plant manager attended some public events. I believe they went to a farmer's market and set up some tables there. We created a what we heard report, brought that and presented it to council for the land use bylaw, and came back with some direction on revising some of the items based on that report. And then got the bylaw sort of ready for first reading. Active transportation plan, we have to work with the consultant, federal grant from 2 years ago. And then brought that forward for information to close off the project. Some MTC appointments occurred. I think we had a member or two leave as well. There was one land use bylaw amendment passed. We had a subdivision decision issued, a subdivision application received and sent for referrals. And there was one subdivision extension issued by council. Other stuff that happened, we've been continuing to use our bids and tenders platform. It's something we're playing with in my department right now. One day it'll be more people, I assume. But it's a procurement platform, so it does posting for advertising. We're still required to use APC, so we post a link over. It also collects questions, allows us to issue addendums, issue documents, and receive bids under seal electronically. It's actually really slick. Data, we did an RFP for data collection on our aerial photography. That's in progress right now. So by the end of the year, there'll actually be a new aerial map on our online mapping linked up. We've got our GIS person has been busy working on maps for me. So we've got maps and bid documents for line painting for future years, as well as they needed it for this year. RFQ for dust application and dust control. Framework for building inventory for traffic signage and regulatory traffic control things, so stop signs and yield signs in our GIS map, so that we've got records of where we've got all the signs. We can assign work orders and track them that way, track history. Same thing with cemetery data. We've been working on adding that to our GIS system. So we can assign work orders and track it in our work order system. And there's actually a public facing map of all of our municipally owned trees that our park supervisor and our GIS person worked on before they left, the parks person, GIS person. We did post a RFQ for the clarifier repair project that was supposed to happen in July. We didn't get any responses. Primarily that when we reached out to contractors that we had been working with to try and get them to submit pricing. The primary response we heard was that the timeline didn't work, so we've actually rescheduled it and negotiated a contract for September. For public works, taking down like grad banners and holiday decorations, hanging flower baskets and new banners downtown, street sweeping, hydrant flushing, done hydrant repairs as well. We're down to 3 bagged hydrants instead of 8 that we were at the beginning of the year. We've done road patching. There's been a combination of spray patching and cold mix applied to the roads. We spent about 25 grand on 25 to 30 grand on materials for patching. Line locate requests, we've had 132 utility line locate requests in Q2. 53 after hours calls, that's much less than the quarter previously, I don't know if you remember, it was about 170 the quarter before. Trying to track some statistics here, 196 separate city works work orders that have been dealt with as well. We also did the dust control on gravel roads, and then road closures to support parades and public events. So there were several in Q2. For water and wastewater, primarily operations as usual with a couple of asterisks here. We didn't hire an intern this year. We were budgeted for one. But candidate pool wasn't that strong, so we chose not to. We had a compliance inspection by a regulator. That's a pretty regular occurrence. The inspector will come and do like a mini audit on our operations team. They're pretty happy with what they saw. There's always a finding or two because they've got to have something. So, pretty minor.
Did they just suddenly turn up one day?
No, they usually try and schedule these ones.
Yeah.
They give us notice and say, hey, we're gonna look at your system on these days, and they focus on the thing. So, this year was, well, I believe it was our sampling procedures for random sampling around the community. We've had a couple of issues with our dump trucks. We use a dump truck to move biosolids from our wastewater treatment plant to the lagoons. That's been out a couple of times for maintenance this year. We might have to start looking at where that fits in our capital plan long term. And then we've had an increased amount of liquids hauling from our biosolids storage facilities back to our wastewater treatment plant. Normally, we do have some over the year, but because of the outage at the beginning of the year for the clarifier work, we've got a lot more volume than we would normally have. So we'll have a bit of an increased operational cost there. There are some regulatory changes that have been telegraphed to us. There's a new records management and approvals management process that's being implemented. They're working through sort of branch of the EPEA at a time. So they work through the Water Act stuff. They're working through the solid waste EPEA stuff. And then next year, we're expecting that all of our water and wastewater approvals are going to be in this new electronic system being rolled out by the province. And then we've been working with them. There were some errors with our Water Act migration that happened in the fall. We've been working with them still to fix those. The big stuff. Upcoming activities for Q3 is really working on capital stuff, finishing up the in progress things as best as we can, selecting our contract for wastewater planning, giving that role, and winter preparation for our operations team. I hate to say it, but we've already been ordering sand, we've been mixing it, we've been going through all of our equipment in Q3, and it's coming.
Oh, isn't that nice on this 30+ day? And so anyways, many compliments to you and Alberta Transportation for the lovely black pavement on Main Street. People appreciated the nice yellow lines that then happened. So are there any more lines to be painted in the town other than that one?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the center. So our line painting contract had kind of two pieces this year. There's all the hand painting stuff that came through like a tornado last week. I don't know if you guys saw them out and about. And there's the road painting crew for Centerline. They came into town, took a look at it. They had to go to another community, they were scheduled there first, and they're catching us on the way back, is my understanding.
Councilor Carr?
Are curbs included in any of those contracts?
I missed that this year. I will have to add it to the vendor next year.
Lots of curb cuts happened in not only Main Street, but I noticed a few in other areas of town, which I think are appreciated by those that, helps them. Any other questions of Mr. Fisher? Yes.
just with the counselor's, Carr's comments on curbs, is that something that we can do in-house? Like when it comes to the yellow curb, cause I know we used to do that all the time.
Yeah, you guys gave me direction that you wanted to enter out a contract this year instead of do it ourselves. So we focused our crew on road work and patching instead of line painting, so we can do it ourselves. I didn't include it in this year's contract. I will use pretty much all of the budget that I had assumed I would use for line painting. So we'll, it's a better quality paint than we're using, so hopefully it lasts a little bit better, and maybe we can not have an increase, but catch the things that only need to be done and leave a couple that are still in good shape next year.
Anything further for Mr. Fisher at this point? Well, thank you, and thank your crews for all the work they're doing, sometimes out in this nice hot weather too, so. Looking good. Next up, we have, Mr. Mugford, who is our corporate services, director, and has a lovely report for us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't promise to keep my comments short because Survivor hasn't been working too well. Just to highlight a couple of things, in the fire departments, they welcomed 40 recruits in Q2. Attended lots of community events, so teddy bear picnic, the community helpers, child safety open house, river days, and of course the June 30th fireworks. And looking forward to Q3, the big event is hosting the Northern Fleet conference in September. And they'll be, of course, continuing recruitment and having their the hosting the fire hall tours for the summer groups and gymnastic club. Within system administration, IT, not a whole lot to say, lots and lots of tickets. Most of these are kind of automated things that get addressed, but in general, systems performing well. A lot of the focus is on updating a lot of our hardware to be compatible with Windows 11. So we're on track to have replaced with 60 computers by the end of the year. So again, lots of work for our staff in getting all those machines imaged and in place. Looking forward to Q3. Again, there's going to be continuation on that. Also, IT is going to be significantly involved in our ERP conversion project. So we're set to kick off that here this fall. So that process is effectively selecting which software we want to use to replace our existing ERP, our existing system. It will no longer be supported as of 2029.
ERP.
Enterprise resource planning. So it's basically our accounting system, utilities. What we use right now is it's called Diamond, and it's no longer going to be supported in 2029. So we still have a few years, but it will take time to do. It's likely going to take, probably it'll be over the next 3 years that we get this selected, go for proposal for a company to do the implementation, migrate all the data over, get people trained on the new system. So it's a lot of work. It's gonna pretty heavily impact my department, but also other individuals in the organization as well. But in the end of it, we should end up with hopefully a better, more functional system that'll give us better reporting and all the benefits that come with that. Moving on to employee services. So this is human resources, payroll, health and safety. In the quarter, we onboarded 15 summer students. That department is also heavily involved in supporting the Red Earth Creek evacuation. We also had our health and safety week. So lots of internal training was done by that. During that week, and there was strong attendance for the keynote speaker session. Looking forward to Q3. So in September, we do our annual core audit. This year it's an external audit, so our auditors are coming from Slave Lake, and our staff, which all 3 of our auditors are from the corporate services department, they'll be going to do the audit in Slave Lake in September. So that's once every 3 years, it's an external audit. And then the other 2 years, you just audit yourself internally. And again, that's to maintain our core status. And Human Resources is continuing work on updating multiple policies and directives that will be coming forward in the coming months. Financial Services, again, Q2, that was wrapping up the year-end audit. Audit was completed on time, clean audit opinion, no management letter points to discuss. Then right into property taxes, so calculating the mill rates, getting the notices out, et cetera. Within Q2, we collected just under 92% of the total levy, so the majority of the money that we've levied for has come in. And again, a lot of involvement in the finance department in supporting that evacuation, because basically all funds that are distributed, or the coupons for meals, all of that has to then be cross-referenced and submitted on. There's a process involved, so a lot of work involved in that, and also staff just assisting at the evacuation center when it initially started out. And we'll just jump ahead to the variance report. So we prepared a variance report as of the end of June. I'll note these figures are all unaudited. So far, we're showing positive budget variance of 1 million on the tax supported side, 1,773,000, and that's exclusive of any budgeted transfers to from reserves. So again, to show a balanced budget, you always have to plug that balance to or from reserves. So I just peel that out of this variance report. So revenue exceeded budget by 374,000, and expenses were 1.4 million under budget. So most of the positive variance is driven from that evacuation revenue. So we book the revenue and the expense associated with that event. So that basically caused about $375,000 of extra revenue. Otherwise, we're pretty much bang on the revenue side of things. On the expense side, most of the variance is just driven from the timing of when work is done. So with the seasonal nature of a lot of the work that we do, might be starting in Q2, but a lot of the invoicing for that work rolls in during Q3 and Q4. Again, there's some variances driven in part by vacancies, but otherwise we are in large part trending towards budget. Or if there's a variance, it'll likely be on the underspend side of things, barring any unanticipated events occurring. And on water wastewater, again, similar story. The revenues are very, very modestly exceeding budget. So I think it's $11,000 on 4.3 million of revenue. So very, very accurate. And the expenses were significantly under. And again, that is in part just due to the timing of when the work is done, and also driven by some vacancies and the timing of when that contracted work is complete. So again, we anticipate there'll likely be a catch up with that variance will narrow, but it'll still, we're anticipating at this point that they'll be, under budget by the end of the year. And with that, I'll take the questions. Thank you.
Questions? So, if the work is all done, this year that was planned, everything should be on budget with the exception of the evacuation part of things, which was more income, I guess.
Yeah, from an operating perspective, there's been nothing extraordinary other than that event, which again, there's a revenue and an expense match for that. So, and again, the way that works, without delving into it too deeply, is if the town incurs overtime, that cost gets passed back to the municipality that evacuated, and then they inevitably submit a DRP claim to the government.
But the municipality reimburses
Yes,
the town,
yeah,
not the.
right, exactly. And there can be a benefit for us as a municipality, just in that if our regular time is utilized in response, that cost gets recovered as well. So that can actually create a positive variance for us in terms of, from a financial perspective. But again, it is a significant interruption in our operations. And so, although we're potentially benefiting by positive budget variance, it can set us behind in other work. So there's a trade-off there.
Okay, and the grants in lieu, we're getting reimbursed, what percentage from the province this year? What are grants in lieu?
So we're up to 75% for 2025 and then 100% for 2026.
Let's see. Helpful. Any further questions though of Mr. Mumford? Well, thank you very much. The numbers are looking good. I know however, the coupons from the stores that provide food for the evacuees, that's a lot of paperwork.
It is, we just finished up with that, but it's just not 100% done yet, but we're 99% of the way.
There's
there.
another batch like
As of
this
last week,
too,
yeah.
that I.
Yeah, all the checks that you
Yeah.
signed that.
So anyways, thank you staff for attending to all those details too. Very good. So thank you. And next up, we have Director of Protective Services, Mr. Kress.
No, that one's.
Yeah.
Okay. Mayor, council, so my report here is not too bad, it's shorter than the rest. For director, since April, the Protective Services team grew by one member. Rick White was brought on as a full-time member. So Jordan, we had to wait a month for his appointment, 3 weeks for it, so he rode with Officer Austin, learning about the town and the community and the bylaws. Then he got his appointment in late April, and then he became the full CPO for the town of Peace River. I'm also working with Ms. Parsons on the policing committee, but she's done most of the work on that stuff, so very much appreciated on that. Also, Jordan there. Our current priorities for us right now, we're only 2 CPOs working right now, is encampments and site lease properties and taxis. That's what the main concern, what we've been working on for the last in Q2. As director, I believe our responsibility to ensure that everybody feels safe and welcome within the town. And as we walk around town, we see that a little bit more people being out enjoying the town. Community Peace Officer, Officer White, since he's come on, he does weights and dimensions in commercial vehicles. So he's been doing a lot of traffic stops or check stops where he's educating our residents in town, making sure they're up to protocol. He is not finding, he's trying to educate more than he tickets. So he's trying to do that as well. We had several encampments, which we had a local group help us with tearing down encampments, which very much appreciated help there. That was a very busy day. I'm also on the Municipal Enforcement Association conference. Our 2 people went this year to the AMEA, where they study a lot more on the MGA and stuff like that, where it can be utilized within the town. Bylaw enforcement, since we've got the MRF e-ticketing program, everything's done online. Officer Austin and Officer White have been busy in our Q2. They did 410 files and 207 warning and tickets. So it's a combination of both. Emergency management, as you know, we activated the ESS program, and individuals all went to the Baytex large scale. Also in April or May, we had the agency meeting, which we met all the people that we attain to within the emergency management within the area. And then, as you know, we had the small briefing here for council that night. Let me see, fire department. I am working with Director Mugford and Chief Harris on revising a draft between CNL administration and ourselves for a new contract or agreement between the town and the CNL, Northern Lights. So that's going on. We also became part of an AFRAX group through the first responders. So we purchased some radios for our firefighters that were needed. And then myself, we're looking forward to work closely with Chief Harris in the new year as the director on top of the fire department. That's it.
Great. Any questions of Mr. Kress? Councilor Carr?
With these encampments that are torn down, you guys follow up after that they don't reestablish?
Yes, we do patrols. We try to go back to every area where they're at, just to see if they're reestablishing. Sometimes we miss the ones down on the waterfront, because they're traveling gypsies, like they keep going back and forth all across the waterfront. But anywhere in town, downtown area, we're on them quite regularly.
Yeah, I suggest you check the riverfront.
Okay.
My only observation about traffic and whatnot is there seems to be quite a few people going down one side of Main Street and will cross over the solid line and park on the opposite side. I have observed that. I almost ran into somebody who's doing that because I'm looking whichever way, looking the right way. But that's all I noticed about that. Any other comments though for Mr. Chris? Well, thank you. Okay, so next up, we have the July Protective Services Monthly Call Report.
Okay, so for the overview of this here, we, on July 1st, myself and Officer White attended an impaired driver that crashed on Highway 2. We notified first responders, fire, and EMS responded. And then ended up arresting the individual, and then he was late, RCMP showed up later. So he was charged for impaired uttering threats with my weapon, possession of drug substance. So I'm glad that he didn't hurt nobody. That was the main goal on that one. Assisted volunteer groups taken down, as I mentioned before, encampments within the town. That was very much appreciated from the group. The fair went well. Officer White in Austin, they did foot patrols for 2 days in town. They only had one occurrences where they escorted somebody off. The rest of the time, it was a pretty good turnout. Shut down, Officer White did several checks, commercial vehicles, load securements and documents. He only shut one down, and the guy went back home and got the proper paperwork and was back on the road within like 15 minutes. Shut down illegal business in the industrial park on Weberville. Did a stop work on our illegal construction in the downtown area. As you see in my report, we had a total of 144 files and total of 47 provincial tickets wrote, 30 bylaw tickets, and then 31 warnings. As of the date at the end of the month, we have 841 or 848 files on the go. That's my report.
When you said on the go, that means none, some of them would have been closed off, but, or.
Yes, some are closed off, but that's the
Okay.
total files
Total.
up to that end of that month is, we're at 848 files this year.
So that's for first 6 months of the year.
Yes,
Wow. Seems a lot, but. Thank you for doing that. Catching all that stuff, I guess. So our, the system where people can go and report a concern, is that working well?
yes, it's working very well. It's at bylaw@peaceriver.ca, Well,
there's another
that
one.
one, and then there's one also on our website up top. They're both working well. They send it right to our emails immediately. So it's good. Works really well.
Great. Okay, any further questions of Mr. Chris? Well, thank you, and hopefully your cold is better and
Thank you.
summer proceeds very nicely. Next up, CAO Miller. With the legislative
Thank you,
services.
Worship. Okay, I'm just gonna skim over a lot that's already been talked about by the different directors. So there was a lot of work done in, as mentioned, in protective services in Q2, working to get that department up and running. As mentioned, we're still working on the CNO Fire Services Agreement. We did meet with administration in June and talked about the importance of defining and really outlining the roles and responsibilities within that agreement, because there was some ambiguity in there. MDA the capital contribution remains outstanding. That discussions were temporarily stalled while they had an interim CAO in there. I am scheduled to have a discussion next month with the new CAO. Enabling Housing Choices North, that project continues onward. And there was a survey done, and we are anticipating on what we heard record. Hopefully we'll have that drafted for September for this council to see what was heard during that survey. And we're still anticipating the final report for the end of November. The council procedure bylaw was completed. Nuclear energy remains top priority. Urban reserve, it's kind of been quiet on that end. Woodland Cree had a recent announcement about another one of their ventures, and I imagine their attention has been kind of directed to that venture of theirs. But I have been talking with their administration. Lots of work by our legislative services on preparation for election. And we're working on post-election orientation. So far we have, we know for sure George Cup is going to be putting on the orientation for council. Tax arrears, I'm still working through on the Juliet's Place. I hope to have that expression of interest posted in early September. Policing study, as I think I've mentioned before, that study was awarded to BLU Alliance. Again, they have created a survey for the residents. I believe the survey has been launched. Yes, it is live now. So I would encourage everybody to please complete the survey because it is important information. The tourism destination assessment project was worked on in Q2. Moving on to the additional activities, you can see there was a number of bylaws that were brought forward for council. There was some efficacy activity. I did want to mention, I did have the opportunity with Mayor Manzer to attend a tour of the PRCC with Minister Williams, and the Assistant Deputy Minister of Correctional Services led that tour for us. I also on the 22nd of May had opportunity to meet with Minister Williams and a couple of our neighboring CAOs to discuss the concerns over the RCMP levels of service in town, and in particular, the number of vacancies we are experiencing at that detachment. Out of that meeting, the Minister Williams and Minister Ellis has asked for our quarterly reports that show the staffing levels so they can monitor the staffing levels as well to provide some assistance for us. I did have opportunity to go to the Canadian Nuclear Association conference, which was a new event for me. CNA was there was representation by CNA today, along with Premier Smith and Mr. Neudorf at their announcement on the nuclear work that they intend to be doing, the public information and surveying and engagement they're going to be doing within the next year. I attended the Economic Development conference, our Ledge Services attended Alberta Municipal Clerks Conference, which is really important to stay on top of the continuous changes, to network with those who are always dealing with the changes that are coming down from the government. Let me see, I had the opportunity for the first time to attend the Seniors Week lunch, and I do want to say that our seniors coordinator and our staff do an amazing job. I know they do an amazing job throughout the year, but I heard from the seniors that this is a cherished event. So thank you for the invitation. I appreciate going. We hosted those nuclear events in the summer or in June. A couple of them we participated with IAC, and a couple we hosted ourselves. In June, there was 3 of our new members of the team went to speak and give presentations at the chamber. So our development officer, Toby, Director Chris, and who else went? Kareen, yes, thank you. Kareen attended, so economic development, and they just each spoke about their portfolios and what they can do to help the residents and businesses in the community. Again, we had our safety presentation, Safety Week. That is was newly developed last year with our new safety officer, and it's really evolving to become a really good week for staff to be exposed to a bunch of different courses and events. Page 2022 just kind of mentioned some of the meetings and whatnot I attended to during that quarter. Moving on to communications, interesting fact that we have 1.62 million views of our page. I thought that was kind of interesting. Nuclear Update was our biggest post of the quarter, reaching more than 40,000 people and receiving 100 comments. Information on the Peace River Adventures taking over the campground was the next most popular post. We netted 415 followers on our page, and Stuart and his work continues to grow. Engagement on our social media. In Q2, our comms person also received his certification and authorization to post an Alberta emergency alert in the event that we have to post any kind of emergency notifications. Again, I want to mention that we did host the full agency meeting. So in the past, our agency meetings were typically, which are required to have an agency under the Emergency Management Act. And we would typically consider our Spring River breakup session as our agency meeting, where Alberta Environment would come and speak to us about the risks of ice jam and whatnot during the breakup. And we'd have some of our partners attending, but not all of the partners attending. So now that we have a Director of Protective Services who will be taking over all the general role, then we'll be having regular agency meetings at least a couple times a year. We can bring those partners together and share our plans and just get to know each other rather than trying to learn each other's personalities and
So
faces
the
in an
agent-
emergency.
The agencies would be like
Alberta Health Services, the schools, the bus system who runs buses, sorry, I'm drawing, but RCMP, ATCO Gas, anybody who would potentially be called into an emergent event into EOCC. Who else should we have? ATCO School Visions, yeah. Economic development wise, business potential specialist, again, still earlier in the onboarding of our organization. There was quite a bit of work on preparing for the Roger Brooks presentation, drafting the retail and services gap analysis. So that was out and posted and it has now been awarded. Head of the chamber, she's basically just getting out there, getting to know our community and getting to know the players in the industry and those who can provide her support. such as the Government of Alberta and Government of Canada reps. And then looking forward, or looking ahead to what I'll be working on in Q3 or what we are working on. Hope to try to get some resolution on those 2 fire service agreements. Housing choices continuing, nuclear energy, my understanding is they're doing some site selection and they're going to be determining their final site. Doing quite a bit of work in Q3. Elections is consuming legislative services. And there we're really going heavily into post-election orientation plans. The policing study is going to be ongoing, and we sent quite a bit of information to the contractors to get them started, and then just another reminder of yet another survey will be issued for the retail and services gap analysis to gain an understanding of what we have and what we're missing in town and to support that study as well. We move on to the motion tracker. At council's last meeting, we'll share all of the motions that were achieved in this quarter, or this term. But as it stands right now, we have about 15 motions that are outstanding that we are working on. 3 of them are quite old. I'm probably gonna bring them back to see if they could be repealed. A couple of them one I had from 2021. And we have 6 motions out of GMP that we're working through, so. That would be the end of my report.
Seems everyone's had a very busy second quarter. So, questions for Miller? I noticed there's some tax incentive types of things coming forward.
Yes, your worship, on the September GMP, we'll be bringing forward a draft bylaw for discussion on industrial and commercial tax incentive.
Good. I know usually there was what was decided about a development report? There was a page in our past reports at some point in time, maybe it's monthly.
Yes, it is. We had an unexpected early departure. So we are just kind of scrambling.
Okay.
But that typically would be yes.
Okay, great. Okay, well, good luck on the third quarter, which is almost, I guess we're halfway through it or more, aren't we? Yeah. And it's great to see all the work being accomplished with a few extras added in there, I'm sure. So thank you again. And then we are on to number 7, council monthly event attendance report. There's one from myself for the month of July. And fairly short, great Canada Day celebration, and the groups that put on the Amazing Family Race. The 11 families or groups participated, and they seemed to have a very good time. Kind of running around town and doing odds and ends of things at various town facilities for the most part, I think, right? Yeah. So they hope to do it again next year, is what I'm hearing. Yeah, so we're great. Okay, any questions of myself? Okay, next up was the 2024 Mighty Peace Watershed Alliance Society Annual Report and Financial Statements. So this is the one to which I am the small urban representative. So towns like ourselves, basically Watershed has had a very busy year. A lot of their grants are coming to the end. So some of the projects will have been completed. They are funded with a grant from the province. It's a 4-year grant. So the worry is always, will the grant arrive? Because money is spent on the expectation that the grant is going to arrive. And then at the end of the 4 years, the 3rd year, they start to worry about, well, are we going to get a grant again? So there's lots of that. They employ 4 to 5 people depending upon the situation and the timing of the year. This year, each watershed in Alberta was lucky to receive a one-time $25,000 donation to each watershed. A lady by the name of Kim Sturgis, who is the founder and CAO of Water Smart Solutions, basically donated $250,000 to the 10 water packs, and we have 25,000, which is very helpful in those times when a grant from the government is kind of up in the air. You can see pictures in here about various things that have happened. We're looking at doing another state of the watershed document, which is a very big document, and it's used for same sort of thing as our strategic planning. And you can see the financial reports are in there as well. Would anyone have any questions on that? Okay, next up, I believe we have I don't know, 5 or so, Peace Regional Waste Management Company board meeting minutes. We're basically getting caught up to date for this, and I would expect that they'll be, coming in a more regular manner for the rest of it. But those are what the Peace Regional landfill has been up to in the last little while. Councillor Shannon or Councillor Carr, any comments you want to make on waste management board's doings?
Maybe the drawings for the new site, maybe.
Oh, yeah,
Lighting,
yeah.
they're
Yes.
exciting.
So, we're building a new cell, and it's a little bit distant from the present landfill location. And you can actually go to the landfill website and see a nice little, schematic of the site. And, yeah, we're excited about it. It's, gonna be state of the art as we can afford to be state of the art, and, it'll look good. And we're still using, we've opened up one more cell in our present land site, but that's the last one on that location. So the process has to go through a lot of regulatory things, just like the nuclear power plant or things in Jasper and Banff that they burn. Well, they go through a lot of regulatory stuff too. And same thing for the waste management and the landfill. So next up, rail advocacy, which has the smallest font going forward. And I don't know why I can't print it differently, but anyways, it's more advocacy with respect to rail cars and getting them to the right places for the lumber and grain and the whole transportation issue, as well as advocating for CN in particular to make sure their maintenance is up to date and stuff like that. Any questions on those? Okay, next up is our August 5th East Regional Healthcare Attraction Retention Committee draft minutes, and can read through them as well. We are well under our way to doing the bid for the conference that we're hoping to host in 2026, and we should finalize the bid document to be sent to the town for their oversight at the end of this month. So if there's no further questions on any of those, would someone maybe move that council accept the reports 9.1 through 9.9, or no, 9.1 through 9.12 for information? Councillor Good so moves. All those in favor? Great. Okay, now we're also getting caught up at all the communication packages. So little oversight. I did go to the farewell for Brian Allen, the CAO of the town of Grimshaw. And it was a nice little gathering with cake and stuff like that. We had some councillors, I think I did, anyway, attend the Peace River powwow, which was at the Baytech Center this year due to the lack of hotels in June, so it was held in July. It was a good turnout, and quite a nice location to hold that. I don't know if anyone else wants to bring up anything further on any of these, documents in our communications thing. Yeah. Counselor Carr?
Any idea what the attendance was to the power?
Yes, it's around 1,000.
Oh,
Yeah, on the first day, and the second day must have been the same, kind of the same. They were actually trying to put people in, so.
yeah, I thought with,
Mhm,
those building, they might.
mhm, mhm.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
impressive.
They had 6 drumming groups. And they hired their own audio visual, so you could hear the drumming groups. And it was very loud in the arena, very loud. But the dancing was great and people seemed to enjoy themselves, enjoy the food and other cultural things. I wanted to bring up, and I don't know if anyone is able to do this, but on the August 1st communications package, we have an invitation from the Northern Alberta Medical Program official launch to go and attend the official launch in Grand Prairie on September 2nd. This is the new doctor training program. So it's kind of a long way to go just for that sort of thing. Other than that, Art Club has sent us a thank you card. And I think they're having a gala once again this year, so keep track of that. And the Chamber of Commerce is having their golf tournament on September, I want to say 5, Friday. So if anybody wants to attend that, they should think about making it. Any further comments on the communications? Okay, how about somebody move that council accept item 10.1 for information? Councillor Carson moves, all those in favor? Great, it is carried. Do we have any notice of motion?
Your worship.
Comments from the public? Not right now. Okay, now we're into close. Do you want to stand up for 5 minutes? Okay, stand
Maybe
up.
just a reminder to our public members that the live stream won't be coming back on.
Okay, so we're ending the live stream. So 8 o'clock, we're back.